Hello everybody, it's Brett here, Lionheart 84. Slightly different style video today for a change. Unfortunately someone's decided to start hammering next door, which means you might not be able to hear me. I'll move a bit closer so you can hopefully hear the sound. It does mean unfortunately you'll have to look at me a bit closer. Plan today is to do this little short intro. It's Sunday the 12th of July and we've got some reasonable weather today at last because it's been unseasonably cold for the last 3 weeks, which has had quite a bad effect on a lot of the tropical plants. But basically got to do a few little tasks today, so I thought I'd just do a quick précis at the start of the video and then link with some short videos together. I bought last week a Chilean guava, the normal green leaf variety called Ka Pow. That needs to be potted up today. I'm going to do a repot on my strawberry guava because I think it's looking as if it might need a new pot by now because it's one of my smaller pots. I'm also planning to investigate the condition of one of my Longans. It's not grown in the last year and the leaves are looking very yellow and they're also brown at the ends of the leaves, so I'm suspecting that it's got the wrong soil type. I think the soil's not draining well enough and I don't think it's acidic enough for a Longan, so I'm going to take that out of the pot today and investigate the condition of the roots, because it may well be that they've got root rot or possibly suffocated. And if the roots are really bad, I might remove all the soil and do a bare root, one of my bare root water wash treatments. But if it's not too bad, I might just tease the bad soil out without washing the roots and repot it in what I think will be a better, more open, draining and acidic root compost. I'm also going to do a little bit of summer pruning on some of the fruit trees that are getting a little bit taller than I want them to be in their pots. I'm going to make a tamarillo video and talk about, I'm going to try several styles of pruning the tamarillo, but I think I'll probably do that on a standalone video. And I've got some other tasks such as cutting the grass, but obviously that's not going to feature in my short videos later. But I just thought I'd do a short intro for once and then carry on with some of the smaller tasks I've got lined up and film bits of those and attach them to this video. So at this point we'll turn the camera around and start some filming. So my first task on my little short list of tasks today is a little bit of summer pruning. Some of my fruit trees, notably the mulberries and Asian pears and a couple of persimmons, are showing very, very strong, pronounced apical growth, putting a lot of height on. This would be fine if you've got them in ground, but as I've got them in containers, there's no real use to me having sort of 10 and 12 foot tall plants. So what I'm planning to do is just take the sort of top foot off some of these, because if you can see, if I stand next to it in the pot, as you can probably see, I can't even reach the tree, which is top of the tree, which will be no use at all from a point of view of cropping them. So what we're going to do here is just take off, if I can manage to video that, reach across to this one. All I'm going to do basically is take off about the top 8 inches of growth. That's on my mulberry, and what I'm hoping that will encourage some more growth of these lower branches, will encourage them to come out a little bit more. So if I can keep the plants to about 7 or 8 feet tall, that will be about enough. That was the pink Moldovan. I haven't got too much height on the Illinois everbearing actually, but I might just take off the top. Sorry, the sun's probably shining in the camera there, but I might just take off the top 3 or 4 inches of some of the shoots. Again, the Asian pear growing very nicely, but I don't really want fruits up that high, so taking the top 6 inches off the Asian pear, And this is one of my persimmons. This is a Hanafuyu again. A lot of height on it there. It's getting up to about 8 or 9 feet tall, so I'm going to take about 50% off those top 2 branches, and hopefully more thickness and strength will go into these lower ones. So we'll pop these off. I'll go around the other side so that the sun's not shining in the camera. I'm just going to take this one off, if I can get the video on it, to about there. And the one behind it, I might have to go around the other side. This one behind it, I'm going to take that off. It's so hard to do when you're filming as well. Take that off there. Actually, I'm going to take these 2 other branches off. Let's take that one off a bit lower, and this one I'll take the tip off. Apologies for the if the sun's shining in the camera and you can't see what I'm doing. So I've just taken it down to the moment. It's probably about 6 feet on top of the pot height, and what I'm hoping to do is get these side branches to grow out a bit stronger. I might shorten this stem slightly on the Asian pear because it'll encourage fruiting spurs. Okay, so that's my summer pruning done. Keep it as short as possible, and then we'll move on to the next stage of the video. So I can hold the camera steady. Sorry, it's not easy to do it with one. So moving on from the summer pruning of some of my taller fruit trees, we're moving on now to my little Chilean guava. This is Ugni Molini, and this variety is Ka Pow, which is supposed to get slightly larger fruits because they're very small fruit on these Chilean guavas. Obviously it's probably only about 12 inches tall, and I think it's in about, well, between a ½ litre and a 1 litre pot. So I'm not going to go too large on the pot. I'm just going to move it up to this size because I don't want it to get too wet on the roots. Don't know if I can see what size this is. So this is 25 centimetre diameter. I would guess it holds about, it's probably about a 1 gallon pot, I would guess. So we're going to quickly throw that in a pot and then come back to the video in a few seconds. So she's happily repotted now. The only thing I'd say you have to watch when you're growing these plants in containers is this is quite a small container, and if we got dry weather for a week or two it could very easily dry out and damage the plant. So just be aware of the watering. I'm going to give this a good soaking in a minute, but then it shouldn't, and I'll put it in a shady position while it's adjusting to its new pot, and in time when it grows bigger I'll obviously up pot it again, and it'll be interesting to see if any of those fruits hold on this year. So we're finished with the Chilean guava and we'll move on to the next stage of this video. So here we are on the next stage of the video, and I'm having a look at my Longan here. Now this is a grafted variety I originally got from Canarius. Don't know if that's pronounced Ha or Hugh or Hay. Not too sure, but you can see the spelling of it. Now the plant is really very poorly. The leaves are very veined and yellow and spotty, and the pot, to be honest, same problem I had with my guava and kumquat before. The pot is so heavy I can barely lift it off the ground. So I believe, although it's been trying to grow, really nothing's happened in the last year, and I think it's a combination of factors. I think the compost might be the wrong compost. I think it's not acidic enough for it. But I believe the other problem may simply be that the roots are too compacted, or the soil's too compacted around the roots, and it's not draining properly, because Longans are really fussy about having wet feet. So I'm going to take it out of the pot and investigate, and I believe it's going to need a rescue repotting. I don't know if I'll have to wash the roots yet. We'll see how bad the soil is around the root ball, but it may well be that I get a bucket of warm water and decide to give the roots a complete washing and start afresh with a nice open and more acidic compost. So we'll see what happens, but I'll have a look and we'll come back to it in a minute. So very quickly, I've made up a special potting mix for the Longan. This has got a large proportion of fine orchid bark in it, and I've added a load of perlite and also ericaceous soil, so this should be a lot more acidic than what's in the other pot, and it's going to be much lighter with the bark in it, which should keep it very open and very free draining. So we'll pull the pop the Longan out of the pot and have a look at it. Yes, very interesting. I've taken it out of its pot, and the plant has made new root growth, but what's interesting is the original soil ball is still here in the shape of the original crummy soil that came from Canarius, which is it's almost like a volcanic stuff. I don't like it at all, and I wish I'd washed it. I didn't know at the time, but I wish I'd washed it all off. So I'm actually going to take the opportunity, and it has got some healthy roots on it, so it's not root rot, but it was very heavy, the soil. So I'm going to take the opportunity to get all of the old soil off, and then I'm going to enclose the plant after I've repotted it in one of my polythene sort of miniature bag greenhouses that I use to try and rehabilitate these plants when they're suffering shock. So I've got a bucket of warm water here, so I'm going to use that to get most of the old soil off, and we'll start afresh. I'm going to keep it in the same size pot, but I think with the fresh compost it'll completely change how the plant grows. So we'll come back to it in just a minute. So here we are with the roots completely washed. Believe it or not something you normally do on a tropical evergreen plant. You can see I've removed all of the old soil completely afresh. I've decided to go with a slightly taller pot because I don't think the pot is quite tall enough for the root system. That'd be perfectly okay. I'm just going to leave that soaking in warm water for a minute or two. That won't do the plant any harm. The roots won't be damaged because it's not a hot day, but more importantly they're in warm water. So I'm just going to go and find a slightly taller, more suitable pot, and we'll come. So here we are repotted now. She's only going to need a light watering, and what I plan to do is, if I can find a big enough bag, put her inside a bag for a little while to give it extra humidity and see how the recovery goes. So we'll come back to that in a minute and show you that section as well. So here we are indoors now, and here's the final stage. Here's the Longan repotted, and I'll put a polythene bag over it. It doesn't have to cover the plant and go to the ground. All it's doing is increasing humidity around the leaves and the stems to cut down on water loss, because with the shock the roots have undergone with being bare rooted, washed and put into fresh compost, they won't start drawing up water for a few days, so you need to try and cut down water loss on the plant. So that should do the job, and we'll leave it inside the house for a few days so it only gets some sunshine in the afternoon. Hopefully we'll see a recovery because here's the one I made for the star fruit, which as you can see is showing growth inside it. Hopefully another 2 weeks that'll be able to come outside. So anyway, that's that Longan finished, and now we're going to move on to the next plant, which is the strawberry guava. To stop filming temporarily because the camera overheated, but here we are again with the strawberry guava, or red cherry guava, depending on where you are in the world. They have different names. This is Psidium cattleyanum. So I'm going to move this into a bigger pot, because it's been in this pot since I had it. I think I got it in September 2000. Oh, there it says August 2018 on the label, so I must have had it delivered in September 2018. This came from Canarius. not a grafted plant. It's been one of my most successful tropicals in terms of growth and health, and as I said, this one has got some flower buds on it, but I think that as it's been in this pot for 2 years and I've been careful with the watering, I think it really needs a bigger pot. So I'm going to put it in this size here, in which I have drilled a substantial amount of holes to make sure it's got good drainage so I don't get water trapped in the pot, and I've made a nice open potting mix for it as well, so hopefully it's going to carry on growing, and stems are going to strengthen and thicken nicely, and we should end up with a very healthy plant with lots of flowers on it next year and potentially fruit. So I don't expect to get anything this year because it's literally just started to produce a couple of flower buds, but it's probably up to, it's well over 4 feet tall by now, and I may have to, probably at about 5 feet tall, I'll probably pinch the tops out and encourage it to get a little bit more bushy, and then we should get more flowers. But let's get on with the potting and then we'll come back to this. So here she is, repotted in the bigger pot now. That's my strawberry guava. As I said, as you can see in the pot, comes up to nearly 5 feet tall. Lots of new growth, giving it nice fresh compost. Hope it's going to really take off and recover from the repotting without any issues. So I'm going to give this a good soaking in a minute. And that will be the end of this Sunday maintenance video. I'm making some other separate videos as well. So thanks for watching, everybody. Please remember to give me a thumbs up. I like the video. Share it if you think anyone's interested. Remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and obviously if you click the bell you will be notified about new videos as I post them. Catch up with everybody in the next video. Out for now.